Retail jobs are supposed to be simple. Stock the shelves, serve customers, close the store. But when the doors are locked, the lights stay on, and you're the only one inside, that's when working retail stops feeling normal. I don't work retail anymore. I can't. It's been 3 years since that night, but I still check my locks twice before bed. Sometimes 3 times. My boyfriend thinks I'm paranoid. Maybe I am, but he wasn't there. He didn't see what I saw. He didn't feel what I felt standing alone in that empty store with nothing but fluorescent lights and the feeling that someone was watching me through the glass. My name's Emma. I'm 22 now, but when this happened, I was 19. Just a kid, really. Working part-time at a sporting goods store in a dying mall on the outskirts of Tulsa. You know the type, half the storefronts boarded up, the food court down to 2 restaurants, and a parking lot so empty at night it felt like the end of the world. I took the job because it was close to my apartment and the pay was decent enough for someone putting themselves through community college. I worked closing shifts mostly, Tuesday through Saturday, 6 to 10. It wasn't a bad gig. Boring, sure, but easy. I'd restock shelves, fold clearance hoodies, run the register when the occasional customer wandered in. Most nights I'd see maybe 5 people total after 8 o'clock. By 9, it was just me and the hum of the overhead lights. November in Oklahoma is cold in a way that gets inside you. It's not just the temperature, it's the wind, the way the sky goes gray and stays that way for weeks. That night, the fog rolled in thick around 7. I remember looking out through the mall's front entrance and barely being able to see the streetlights in the parking lot. It looked like something alive, the way it clung to the asphalt and crawled up the light poles. My manager, Kevin, was supposed to close with me, but around 8:30 he got a call. Family emergency. His mom or something. He looked stressed, apologized twice, told me I'd be fine, and left through the back. I didn't blame him. I closed alone before. It was against policy, but nobody really cared. Corporate wasn't going to check on a random Tuesday night in a dead mall. So it was just me. I turned up the store radio a little. Some pop station. Kept myself busy folding jackets near the front. The mall itself was almost empty. I'd see the occasional person drift past the storefront. Mostly older folks doing laps for exercise. By 9:30, even they were gone. That's when he walked in. I noticed him right away because he was the first customer I'd seen in over an hour. He was maybe in his 40s. Average height. Tan jacket, jeans, work boots. Dark hair, a little greasy. He didn't look dangerous. That's the thing I keep coming back to. He looked normal, tired, like a guy stopping in after a long shift. But he didn't shop. He walked past the entrance, past the shoe wall, past the clearance rack and stopped in the fishing aisle. And he just stood there, facing the rods, not moving, not looking at anything, just standing. I was behind the register, pretending to organize receipts. I kept glancing over, waiting for him to pick something up, ask a question, do literally anything. But he didn't. He just stood there. And every few seconds, I swear I could feel him looking at me. I told myself I was being paranoid. It was late. I was alone. My brain was filling in gaps that weren't there. But my hands were shaking a little when I finally walked over and said, "Hey, can I help you find anything?" He turned his head slowly, smiled. Not a big smile, just a small one, like he'd heard a joke I hadn't. And he didn't say a word, just stared at me. His eyes were light, blue maybe, hard to tell under the fluorescent lights. But they didn't blink. I forced a smile back. "We close in about 10 minutes. So if you need anything, just let me know." Nothing. I walked back to the register. My heart was pounding. I don't know why. He hadn't done anything. Hadn't said anything. But something about the way he looked at me made my skin crawl. That smile. It wasn't friendly. It was knowing. Like he was in on something I wasn't. I glanced at the clock. 9:52. 8 minutes. I stayed behind the counter, pretending to count the drawer, but I kept watching him in my peripheral. He still hadn't moved, just standing there in the fishing aisle, hands at his sides, staring at the wall. Or at me. I couldn't tell anymore. At exactly 10 o'clock, I walked to the front of the store and pulled down the metal security gate. It made that loud rattling sound it always did. I locked it from the inside. I didn't see him leave. I didn't hear the door chime. But when I turned around, he was gone. I stood there for a second, listening. The store was silent except for the low hum of the refrigerators in the back. I told myself he must have slipped out while I was pulling the gate, that I just didn't notice. But I had that feeling. You know the one, like someone's still there, watching. I grabbed my coat and bag from the back office, shut off the lights, and left through the rear employee exit. The door locked automatically behind me. The parking lot was almost empty, just my car and a van on the far side that belonged to the janitorial crew. The fog was worse now, thick. I could barely see 20 feet in front of me. That's when I saw him. He was standing under the broken light near the dumpsters. The same tan jacket, the same posture, just standing there, not moving, facing my direction. My stomach dropped. I pulled out my phone and called my boyfriend, Jake. My hands were trembling so bad I almost dropped it. "Hey babe, what's?" "Just stay on the phone with me," I said. My voice cracked. "Don't hang up. What's wrong? Just, please." I started walking toward my car, keys already in my hand. I didn't look at the man. I didn't want to, but I could feel him watching me. I kept talking to Jake, trying to sound normal, telling him about my shift, about Kevin leaving early, anything to fill the silence. When I got to my car, I froze. The driver's side door was open, not unlocked. Open. I know I locked it. I always locked it. I'm obsessive about it. But the door was hanging half open, the interior light on, and my stomach twisted into a knot so tight I thought I might throw up. "Emma?" Jake's voice crackled through the speaker. "You okay?" I didn't answer. I looked back toward the dumpsters. The man was gone. I should have gotten back in the store. I should have called the police. But I didn't. I just wanted to leave. I wanted to go home. So I checked the back seat, empty, and got in. My heart was slamming against my ribs. I locked the doors immediately, started the engine. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely grip the wheel. That's when I saw it, sitting on my passenger seat. A receipt. I picked it up. It was from our store. From that night. Timestamped 9:53 p.m. My register number. A single item purchase. Fishing line. I never rang him up. I never saw him check out. I sat there staring at that receipt, my brain trying to make sense of it, and that's when I smelled it. Faint, but there. The smell of someone else. Sweat, cigarettes, something sour. He'd been in my car. I don't really remember the drive home. I know I called the police from my apartment. They came, took a report, checked my car. They found nothing. No prints. No signs of forced entry. They said maybe I forgot I unlocked it. Maybe the receipt got left behind from an earlier shift. But I know what I saw. I quit 2 days later. Couldn't go back. I still see that mall sometimes when I'm driving past. The parking lot's even emptier now. I heard they're closing it down for good next year. I don't know who that man was. I don't know how he got in my car. I don't know why he left that receipt. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm locking my door for the second or third time, I think about that smile. That knowing, quiet smile. And I wonder if he's still out there, waiting. I still won't go into small, windowless rooms, elevators, bathrooms with no windows, walk-in closets. Even my therapist's office makes my chest tight if the door's fully closed. People think I'm being dramatic. They don't know what I saw. They don't know what I felt in that dressing room. And honestly, I hope they never do. My name's Casey. I'm 24 now. When this happened, I was 21, working at a discount clothing store in a strip mall just outside Austin. You know the kind. Everything's under $15, the air conditioning barely works, and there's this sour smell baked into the walls that no amount of cleaning ever gets rid of. It smelled like sweat and old cardboard and something else. Something I couldn't ever place. Mildew, maybe, or something rotting behind the walls. It wasn't a dream job, but it paid rent. I worked mornings, mostly opening shifts. Tuesdays through Saturdays, 8 to 4. The store was dead in the mornings. We'd get maybe 3 or 4 customers before noon. It gave me plenty of time to fold clearance shirts and zone out to whatever pop station was playing through the static-filled speakers overhead. I remember that Wednesday because it was one of those quiet days that felt off from the start. I don't know how else to explain it. The air felt heavier. The lights seemed dimmer. I kept getting this crawling feeling on the back of my neck, like someone was standing behind me, but every time I turned around, no one was there. I told myself I was just tired. I hadn't been sleeping well. Stress from school. Relationship stuff. Normal 21-year-old problems. But looking back now, I think some part of me knew. Some part of me felt it before it even started. Around 10:30, a woman walked in. She was maybe in her 40s. Long dark hair, wet at the ends like she'd just been out in the rain. But it wasn't raining. It had been dry all week. She was wearing a gray sweater and jeans, and she moved slow like she was tired or sick or something. She didn't make eye contact, didn't say hello, just walked straight to the clearance rack near the back and started flipping through jeans. I stayed at the counter, folding a pile of tank tops. I watched her out of the corner of my eye. She pulled 3 pairs off the rack and walked toward the dressing rooms without a word. "I can unlock one for you," I called out. She stopped, turned her head slightly but didn't look at me, just nodded. I grabbed the key ring from behind the register and walked over. There were 4 dressing rooms along the back wall. Small, cramped, with those flimsy saloon-style doors that don't lock right. I unlocked number 3 and pushed the door open. The light inside flickered on automatically, one of those motion sensor bulbs that barely worked half the time. She walked in without saying anything. I heard the door swing shut behind her. I went back to folding. 20 minutes passed. Maybe longer. I wasn't really paying attention. The store was still empty. The music overhead cycled through the same 6 songs. I kept folding, refolding. My manager wasn't in yet, so I was alone. It was quiet. Too quiet. That's when I realized I hadn't heard the dressing room door open. I glanced toward the back. The door to room 3 was still closed. I figured she was just taking her time. Some people do. But something about it felt wrong. I don't know why. It was just a feeling. A tightness in my chest. I walked over and knocked lightly. "Hey, you doing okay in there?" No answer. I knocked again. Louder this time. "Miss." Nothing. I felt my pulse start to pick up. I pressed my ear against the door. I couldn't hear anything. No rustling. No movement. Not even breathing. I pulled out my key and unlocked the door. It was empty. The jeans were still hanging on the hook. All 3 pairs. Untouched. But the woman was gone. I stood there staring, trying to make sense of it. There was no other way out. The dressing rooms didn't have windows. No back doors. Just 4 walls, a bench, and a mirror. She couldn't have left without me seeing. But she was gone. That's when I noticed the cold. The air inside the dressing room was freezing. And I mean freezing. Like stepping into a walk-in freezer. I could see my breath. The hairs on my arms stood straight up, and my skin broke out in goosebumps so fast it hurt. And then I saw the footprints. Wet, dark, leading from the bench to the back wall. I stepped inside, my heart hammering now. I crouched down and touched one of the prints. My fingers came away damp, cold. It smelled like stagnant water, like something that had been sitting too long. I stood up and looked at the back wall. It was just drywall, painted beige, nothing special. But when I pressed my hand against it, it was wet, not damp, wet, like something was seeping through from the other side. I pulled my hand back and stumbled out of the room. My chest was tight. I could barely breathe. I radioed my manager, Val, who was in the stockroom unloading a shipment. "Val, I need you to come to the dressing rooms. Now." She showed up a minute later, annoyed. "What's wrong?" I explained everything. The woman, the cold, the footprints. She looked at me like I was insane. She walked into room 3, glanced around, and shrugged. "Casey, there's nothing here." "But the footprints." "I don't see any footprints." I looked down. The floor was dry, completely dry. The cold was gone too. The air felt normal again. Val put a hand on my shoulder. "You feeling okay? You look pale." I didn't answer. I just nodded. She left. I locked the dressing room and tried to forget about it. Tried to convince myself I'd imagined it. Stress, lack of sleep, something. But I knew what I'd seen. That night I was closing alone. Val left around 7. It was just me and the hum of the overhead lights. I was finishing up the last of the res hop when I walked past the dressing rooms. The door to room 3 was closed and locked from the outside. I stopped, stared at it. I hadn't locked it. I know I hadn't. I'd left it open after Val checked it that morning. My hands were shaking when I pulled out the key. I didn't want to open it. Every part of me was screaming not to, but I had to. I had to know. I unlocked the door and pushed it open. The same jeans were on the floor now, soaking wet, dripping. The smell hit me immediately. Stale water, rot, something worse. The footprints were back. Dozens of them, leading from the bench to the mirror. And on the mirror, smudged into the condensation that coated the glass, were 2 words. Still here. I didn't scream. Couldn't. My throat closed up. My legs went weak. I backed out of the room, slammed the door shut, grabbed my bag, and ran. I quit the next day. Didn't go back. Didn't pick up my last paycheck. Couldn't. I heard later that they had to close that store down. Something about plumbing issues. Flooding in the walls. They found water damage behind the dressing rooms. Mold. Rotting wood. But I know it wasn't just water. I don't know who that woman was, or what she was. I don't know if she was ever really there at all. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm alone in my apartment, I still feel that cold. I still smell that stagnant water. And I swear I can hear footsteps. Wet, slow, getting closer. I keep my social media private now. I have to. No public photos. No location tags. No check-ins. My Instagram is locked down. My Facebook is deactivated. I don't even use my real name on Twitter anymore. People think I'm paranoid. Maybe I am. But they didn't see him standing in that grocery store, smiling at me like he'd been waiting. They didn't hear what he said. They don't know what it's like to feel like you're never really alone. My name's Jenna. I'm 24 now. When this started, I was 21, working at a big box electronics store in Portland. One of those massive places with fluorescent lights that never shut off and aisles that stretch on forever. I worked weekdays mostly, 12 to 8, sometimes 9 if we were busy. It was a decent job. Boring, but the pay was okay, and I got along with most of my coworkers. I was in my 3rd month there when I first saw him. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Slow. Maybe 3 or 4 customers in the whole store. I was restocking HDMI cables in the home theater section when he walked up. Mid-30s, maybe. Clean cut. Glasses. Button-up shirt tucked into jeans. He looked normal. Professional. Like a guy who worked in an office and stopped by on his lunch break. He asked about security cameras. Not unusual. We got those questions all the time. But his questions were specific. Too specific. He wanted to know about camera angles, recording duration, night vision capabilities, remote access. He asked if certain models could be accessed from a phone, if they stored footage locally or in the cloud, if they sent alerts when motion was detected. I answered what I could, polite but short. I didn't like the way he was looking at me, not in a creepy, obviously threatening way, just intense. Like he was studying me, taking mental notes. He thanked me and left. I didn't think much of it at the time. Weird customer. Whatever. I went back to stocking cables and forgot about it. A week later, he came back. Same aisle. Same questions. I recognized him immediately. He was wearing a different shirt, blue this time, but the same glasses. The same posture. He walked right up to me like we were old friends. "Hey, Jenna," he said. Casual. Friendly. I froze. I wasn't wearing a name tag. I never wore one. I hated them. They dug into my shirt and the clip always broke, so I just didn't wear it. My manager didn't care as long as I helped customers. "Sorry," I said, forcing a smile. "Do I know you?" He tilted his head slightly, smiled. "You helped me last week. With the cameras." "Oh, right. I just had a couple follow-up questions." I answered them, quickly. I wanted him gone. The whole time, I kept thinking about how he knew my name. Maybe he overheard a coworker. Maybe I helped him at the register and didn't remember. There had to be an explanation. He left. I told myself I was overthinking it. But then my coworkers started mentioning him. Hey, that guy came in looking for you yesterday, my coworker Dave said one afternoon. What guy? Glasses. Button up. Asked if you were working. My stomach tightened. What did you tell him? Dave shrugged. That you were off. Why? You know him? No. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about it. About his smile. About the way he said my name. I started parking in the back lot after that. Closer to the employee entrance. I didn't want to walk across the main lot alone anymore. 2 weeks later, I found the note. It was a Friday. I just finished my shift. It was dark outside, winter in Portland, so the sun sets early. I walked to my car, keys already in my hand, and that's when I saw it. A small piece of paper tucked under my windshield wiper. I almost threw it away, probably just an ad or a flyer. But something made me open it. The handwriting was neat, careful, almost too careful. You look tired today. You should rest more. I worry about you. My hands started shaking. I flipped it over. On the back was a schedule. My schedule, typed out. Every shift I was working for the next 2 weeks. Days, times, exact hours. I felt like I was going to throw up. I looked around the parking lot. It was almost empty. A few cars scattered near the entrance. I didn't see anyone, but I felt it. That crawling, suffocating feeling of being watched. I got in my car, locked the doors, and drove straight to the store. I showed my manager, Eric. He read the note, his face going pale. Do you know who this is? I told him about the guy, the cameras, the questions, the fact that he kept coming and asking for me. Eric banned him that night, pulled up security footage, got a screenshot of his face, printed it out, and taped it to the employee break room wall with a note. Do not serve. Call manager immediately. I felt safer after that. A little. The guy didn't come back. Weeks passed. Then a month. Then 2. I started to relax. Started to think maybe it was over. Maybe he'd moved on. Found someone else to obsess over. I was wrong. 3 months later, I saw him again. I was at a grocery store across town. Completely different neighborhood. I'd gone after work to grab milk and cereal. It was around 9 at night. The store was quiet. Fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Soft pop music playing through the speakers. I was in the cereal aisle, staring at a box of Cheerios, when I felt it. That same suffocating feeling. Like someone was watching me. I looked up. He was at the end of the aisle. Same glasses. Same button-up shirt. Just standing there. Staring. Not moving. Not pretending to shop. Just watching. My heart stopped. I told myself to stay calm. To not react. I grabbed the cereal, turned, and started walking toward the front of the store. I didn't look back. I didn't run. I just walked. Fast. I got to the checkout, my hands trembling so bad I could barely hold my wallet. I paid. The cashier asked if I was okay. I nodded. Lied. I walked out to my car, constantly looking over my shoulder. I didn't see him. I unlocked my car, threw the groceries in the back seat, and got in. Locked the doors immediately. That's when I looked up. He was standing in the parking lot, 20 feet away, just standing there under a streetlight, watching me. I started the engine. My hands were shaking so bad I almost couldn't grip the wheel. I looked at him one more time. He smiled, and then he mouthed 2 words. I still know. I drove home doing 70 in a 45. I didn't stop at stop signs. I ran 2 red lights. I kept checking my rearview mirror, convinced I'd see headlights following me. But there was nothing. I called the police when I got home, filed a report, gave them the note, the security footage screenshot, everything. They said they'd look into it. They said to call if I saw him again. But what were they going to do? He hadn't threatened me, hadn't touched me. He was just there, watching, knowing. I quit my job 2 weeks later, moved to a different part of the city. changed my phone number, locked down all my social media. I don't post where I am. I don't check in anywhere. I don't use my real name online anymore. It's been 3 years. I haven't seen him since that night in the grocery store. But sometimes I still feel it. That crawling, suffocating feeling. Like someone's watching. Like someone knows exactly where I am. And late at night, when I'm lying in bed, I think about what he said. I still know. And I wonder if he's telling the truth. I don't like being alone in quiet places anymore. Elevators. Empty hallways. Even my own apartment when my roommate's gone. I need noise. TV. Music. Something. Because when it's quiet, I hear it. That voice. Faint. Singing. And I know it's not real. But my body doesn't care. My hands start shaking. My chest gets tight. And I have to leave. I have to get out. My name's Aaron. I'm 26 now. When this happened, I was 23, working as a stock clerk at a small pharmacy in a town outside Akron, Ohio. Population maybe 4,000. The kind of place where everyone knows everyone except they don't really. They know your name. They know where you work. But they don't know you. Not really. I took the job right out of community college. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. My job was simple: unload shipments, stock shelves, organize the back storage room. I worked evenings mostly, for to close. The store closed at 10, and I'd usually be out by 11. The storage room was in the back, past the pharmacy counter, down a narrow hallway, through a heavy metal door. It was cramped. Shelves stacked floor to ceiling with boxes of bandages, vitamins, diapers, cleaning supplies. The lighting was terrible. Just 2 flickering fluorescent tubes that buzzed constantly. And it was always cold back there. I mean cold. 10 degrees colder than the rest of the store. Easy. I'd wear a hoodie even in summer. I didn't mind it at first. It was quiet. I could work at my own pace. Listen to music on my earbuds. Zone out. But after a few months, I started getting this feeling. Like I wasn't alone. Like someone was watching me from the corners where the light didn't reach. I told myself I was being stupid. It was just a storage room. Old building. Weird drafts. Bad lighting. Nothing more. But the feeling didn't go away. It was a Thursday night in late September when it happened. I remember because it was the first cold night of the season. The kind of cold that creeps into your bones and doesn't leave. The store had been dead all evening. Maybe 5 customers total. By 9 o'clock, it was just me and Linda, the pharmacist, and she was up front closing out the register. I was in the back restocking allergy meds. We'd gotten a big shipment that afternoon, and I was trying to get through it before close. I had my earbuds in, some playlist I wasn't really paying attention to, when I heard it. A voice, faint, distant, but clear enough that I pulled out my earbuds. It was a woman's voice, singing. I froze, listened. The melody was soft, almost lullaby-like. I couldn't make out the words, but the tune was familiar in a way I couldn't place. Sounded old, like something my grandmother might have hummed when I was a kid. I figured it was the radio. Maybe Linda had turned on the speakers up front. But we didn't have speakers in the back. The storage room was soundproofed. You couldn't hear anything from the store once that metal door closed. I stood up, my heart beating a little faster now. I called out, "Linda!" No answer. The singing continued. Quiet. Steady. It wasn't coming from the door. It was coming from deeper in the room, near the back wall. I walked toward it slowly, my footsteps echoing on the concrete floor. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting long shadows between the shelves. The singing got louder, not by much, but enough that I could tell it was close. It was coming from behind a pallet of paper towels stacked near the emergency exit. The emergency exit was old, rusted. It hadn't been used in years. There was a chain looped through the handle and padlocked. A bright red sign above it read, "Emergency exit only, alarm will sound." I stepped closer. The singing was right there, just on the other side of the boxes. I reached out and moved the top box. Then another. Then another. My hands were trembling. I didn't know why. It was probably just a draft. Or pipes. Old buildings made weird noises all the time, but when I moved the last box, there was nothing there. Just the wall, the door, the chain. The singing stopped. I stood there, staring, my breath coming out in short, shallow bursts. The air around me was freezing now. I could see my breath. The hairs on the back of my neck stood straight up. And then I felt it. Breath. On my neck. Warm. Wet. Clothes. I spun around. No one. The storage room was empty. The lights flickered. The shadows shifted. But there was no one there. And then the singing started again. Louder this time. Right behind me. Right in my ear. I didn't think. I just ran. I slammed through the metal door, stumbled down the hallway, and burst into the front of the store. Linda looked up, startled. "Aaron? What? Did you hear that?" I was breathing hard. My voice was shaking. "Hear what?" "The singing. In the back. Did you hear it?" She stared at me like I'd lost my mind. "Aaron, I didn't hear anything. I didn't go back in that night." Linda finished closing. I waited by the front door, arms crossed, watching the hallway like something was going to come crawling out. Nothing did. The next morning, I told my manager, Greg. He didn't believe me. Not really. But he agreed to check the security footage. We sat in his tiny office, watching the grainy black and white feed from the storage room camera. The timestamp read 9:03 p.m. I watched myself restocking, pulling out my earbuds, standing up, walking toward the back wall. And then I saw it. The emergency exit door, chained, padlocked, sealed for years, opened. Not all the way, just a crack, maybe 6 inches. But it opened, and something came through. A shadow, humanoid, but wrong. It moved like it was crawling, dragging itself across the floor. It slithered between the shelves, toward me, and then the footage cut to static for 5 seconds. When it came back, the door was closed. The shadow was gone, and I was running. Greg stared at the screen, his face pale. What the hell was that? I don't know. He tried to play it off, said it was a glitch, a malfunction, but I saw his hands shaking when he ejected the tape. I quit 2 days later. I moved to Columbus, got a new job, a new apartment. I tried to forget about it, tried to convince myself it was nothing, a hallucination, stress, lack of sleep, something. But last month I heard it again. I was alone in my apartment. It was late, maybe 2 in the morning. I was lying in bed, scrolling through my phone, when I heard it, singing, faint, distant, but unmistakable. The same melody, the same voice. I sat up, my heart pounding. I checked every room, every closet, every corner. Nothing. The apartment was empty, but I could still hear it. Soft, close, like it was right next to me. And then I smelled it. That same smell from the storage room. Cold metal, rust, something old and rotting. I grabbed my keys and left. Spent the night at a friend's place. I haven't been back alone since. I don't know what I heard that night in the pharmacy. I don't know what came through that door. But I know it wasn't human. And I know it followed me. Because sometimes late at night when everything's quiet, I still hear her singing. I can't explain what I saw. I just know it wasn't right. I've tried. Believe me, I've gone over it 1,000 times in my head, trying to make sense of it, trying to find some logical explanation. But there isn't one. What I saw that night, what I experienced, it wasn't human. I know how that sounds. I know people think I'm crazy, but I was there. I saw him. I felt his hand. And I know what happened. My name's Marcus. I'm 28 now. When this happened, I was 25, working the graveyard shift at a 24-hour gas station convenience store just outside Tonopah, Nevada. Middle of nowhere. The kind of place where you can drive for an hour and not see another car. Just desert. Darkness. Stars so bright they almost hurt to look at. I took the job because it paid decent and I needed the money. 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. 6 nights a week. It wasn't bad, honestly. Quiet. I'd read, watch movies on my phone, restock shelves when shipments came in. Most of my customers were truckers passing through or locals with insomnia who needed cigarettes or energy drinks. I got to know the regulars pretty quick. Same faces, same orders, same small talk. But there was one guy who was different. He started coming in about 3 weeks after I started. Always at 3:17 a.m. Exactly. Not 3:15. Not 3:20. 3:17. I noticed because I'd glance at the clock every time the door chime went off, and it was always the same time. He was older, 60s maybe, thin, weathered face. He wore the same thing every night. Red flannel shirt, blue jeans, work boots caked in dried mud. His hair was gray and greasy, combed back like he'd just run his fingers through it. He never said a word. Not hello, not thanks, nothing. His routine never changed. He'd walk in, go straight to the coffee station in the back corner. Stand there for exactly 90 seconds. I timed it, staring at the pot, not pouring, not touching anything, just staring. Then he'd pour himself a large black coffee, grab a pack of spearmint gum from the rack next to the register, and walk to the counter. I'd ring him up. He'd pay in exact change. Every time. And then he'd leave. That was it. But there was something about him that made my skin crawl. Something I couldn't put my finger on at first. Took me almost 2 weeks to realize what it was. He never blinked. Not once. I started paying closer attention after that. Watching him. At first, I thought maybe I was imagining it. Maybe I just wasn't catching it. But no. I watched him for a full 90 seconds at the coffee station one night, and his eyes never closed. Not even for a second. He just stared at that pot with wide, unblinking eyes. Pale blue, almost gray, like they were made of glass. Freaked me out. I started watching him on the security cameras after he left. Rewinding the footage. Watching him walk in. Walk to the coffee station. Stand there. Pour. Walk to the register. Pay. Leave. Frame by frame. And in every single frame, his eyes were open. Wide. Staring. I told myself it was a medical condition. Some people can't blink normally. It's a thing. But that didn't explain the way he moved. Stiff. Mechanical. Like his joints didn't bend right. Or the way he never breathed. I watched his chest. It never rose. It never fell. I told myself I was being paranoid. Working nights messes with your head. Makes you see things that aren't there. But I knew what I was seeing. And then one night I decided to test it. It was a Tuesday. Slow. I hadn't seen a customer in over an hour. I was bored. Restless. And I kept thinking about him. About that routine. That exact, unchanging routine. So at 3:10, I walked over to the coffee station and unplugged the machine. I went back behind the counter and waited. At exactly 3:17, the door chime rang. He walked in. Same flannel. Same boots. Same blank expression. He didn't look at me. Didn't acknowledge me. Just walked straight to the coffee station like always. And he stood there, staring at the empty, cold pot. My heart was pounding now. I watched him on the security monitor behind the counter. 90 seconds. Exactly 90 seconds. He didn't move. Didn't reach for the pot. Didn't look confused or frustrated. Just stood there, staring. And then, at exactly 90 seconds, he turned and walked to the register. No coffee. No gum. Just him. He stopped in front of the counter. His eyes locked on mine. And for the first time since I'd started working there, he smiled. But it wasn't a normal smile. His mouth stretched too wide. Way too wide. Like his face was rubber. Like something was pulling it from the inside. His teeth were yellow. Too many of them. And his eyes, those pale, unblinking eyes, didn't change. They just stared. Straight through me. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. My whole body locked up. He reached out and placed his hand on the counter. I don't know why I touched it. I don't know what I was thinking. But I reached out and took his hand. It was ice cold. Not cold like he'd been outside. Cold like death. Like touching a corpse. His skin was dry. Papery. And I swear I felt something underneath. Something moving. Writhing. I yanked my hand back. He didn't move. Just kept smiling. And then, slowly he turned and walked out. The door chimed. He was gone. I stood there shaking. My hand was numb. I looked at it under the light. There were no marks, no scratches, but it felt wrong, like something had gotten under my skin. I didn't sleep that day. Couldn't. I kept seeing his face. That smile. Those eyes. The next night I came in early. I was dreading 3:17. I kept watching the clock. 3:10. 3:15. 3:16. 3:17. The door didn't chime. He didn't come in. I waited. 5 minutes. 10. Nothing. I told myself I was relieved. But I wasn't. Something felt wrong. I walked around the store, checked the aisles, the bathroom, the stockroom. Everything was normal. And then I walked past the coffee station. There was a cup sitting on the counter. A large black coffee, steaming. I stopped, stared at it. I hadn't made coffee. The machine was still unplugged. I reached out and touched the cup. It was hot, fresh, like it had just been poured. I looked around. The store was empty. The cameras showed nothing. No one had come in. No one had been near the coffee station. But the cup was there. I grabbed it and threw it in the trash. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold it. I quit the next day. Didn't give notice. Didn't go back for my last check. I just left. Moved to Reno 2 weeks later. Got a job at a warehouse. Day shift. I've tried to forget about it. Tried to convince myself it was stress. Exhaustion. Something. But I can't. Because last week, I was getting coffee at a diner. It was early. Maybe 6 a.m. I was waiting for my order when I felt it. That cold. I turned around. He was sitting in a booth by the window. Same flannel. Same boots. Same blank, unblinking stare. And he was smiling. I didn't wait for my coffee. I just left. I don't know what he is. I don't know what he wants. But I know he's still out there. Watching. Waiting. And I think he's been following me. I'm a father now, and I think about her every time my daughter laughs. It's a specific kind of laugh, high-pitched, innocent, the kind that makes you smile even when you're exhausted. But when my daughter does it, when she tilts her head back and giggles like that, I freeze. Just for a second. And I'm back in that store. Aisle 7. Staring at something I can't explain. Something that shouldn't have been there. My name's David. I'm 31. When this happened, I was 24, working at a grocery store in a suburb just outside Chicago. Naperville, to be exact. Nice area. Quiet. The kind of place where people complain about property taxes and argue about school budgets. Nothing bad ever happened there. At least that's what I thought. I was a stock clerk. Evening shift, mostly. 4 to midnight. It wasn't a bad job. The pay was decent, and the work was mindless enough that I could zone out and listen to podcasts while I restocked shelves. I'd been there about 8 months when this happened. It was late October, a week before Halloween. The store was decorated with fake cobwebs and cardboard cutouts of witches and skeletons. There were pumpkins stacked near the entrance and a display of candy corn that nobody ever bought. The whole place smelled like artificial cinnamon from the seasonal candles we were pushing. That night it was slow, really slow. By 8 o'clock there were maybe 5 customers in the whole store. It was a Tuesday, cold, drizzling rain, the kind of night where people stay home. I was working in aisle 7, canned goods. Soup, beans, tomato sauce, boring stuff. I had my earbuds in, some true crime podcast playing, and I was just going through the motions, stacking cans, rotating stock, not thinking about much. And then I heard it, a little girl giggling. I pulled out my earbuds and looked up. She was standing at the far end of the aisle, maybe 30 feet away. 6 years old, I'd guess. Blonde hair in pigtails, pink dress with white flowers on it. She was just standing there, looking at me, smiling. I smiled back. Hey there, you okay? She giggled again, that same high-pitched, innocent laugh. And then she turned and ran around the corner. I figured she was playing. Kids do that. I assumed her mom or dad was somewhere nearby, probably shopping, and the kid had wandered off. I walked to the end of the aisle and looked around the corner. She was gone. I checked the next aisle. Nothing. I walked to the front of the store, looked down each row. Empty. I pulled out my radio and clicked the button. Hey, anyone seen a little girl? Blonde hair, pink dress? Maybe 6 years old. Static. Then my coworker Jake's voice crackled through. No. Why? I just saw her in aisle 7. Thought she might be lost. I haven't seen any kids tonight. You sure? I paused. Yeah, I'm sure. Want me to check the cameras? No, it's fine. I'll keep an eye out. I clipped the radio back to my belt and stood there for a second, staring down the empty aisles. Something about it felt off. I couldn't explain why. She was just a kid, probably ran back to her parents. But I had this tight feeling in my chest, this nagging sense that something wasn't right. I went back to aisle 7 and kept stalking. And then I heard her again, giggling. I froze. My hands stopped mid-reach, a can of tomato soup hovering in the air. The sound was close, really close, like she was right behind me. I turned around slowly. She was standing at the far end of the aisle again. The exact same spot, same dress, same pigtails, same smile. My stomach dropped. Hey, I said, my voice a little shakier this time. Where's your mom? She didn't answer, just stared at me. Her smile didn't move, didn't change. It was frozen, unnatural. And then I noticed something else. She wasn't blinking. Her eyes were wide, blue, glassy, like doll eyes. And they didn't move, didn't shift, just stared straight at me. I took a step toward her. Are you okay? She giggled again. But this time it didn't sound right. It was too loud, too sharp, like it was coming from a speaker instead of a person. And then she wasn't alone anymore. There was a man standing behind her, tall, maybe 6.5 feet, wearing dark clothes, black jacket, black pants. But his face, he didn't have a face. Not shadowed, not hidden, just nothing. Smooth, blank, like someone had erased it. I blinked. They were gone. Both of them, just gone. The aisle was empty, silent. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. My hands were shaking. I stood there, frozen, staring at the spot where they'd been. I grabbed my radio. My fingers were trembling so bad I almost dropped it. Jake, I need you in aisle 7. Now. What's wrong? Just get over here. He showed up a minute later, looking annoyed. Dude, what? Did you see them? I cut him off. The girl, the man. Did you see them? He looked at me like I was losing it. David, there's no one here. They were right there. I pointed to the end of the aisle. Right fucking there. Jake glanced down the aisle, then back at me. Man, you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. I didn't answer. I just walked to the front of the store and told the manager I needed to check the security footage. He grumbled but let me into the back office. We pulled up the camera feed for aisle 7. Scrubbed back to 8:12 p.m. I watched myself stocking cans, pulling out my earbuds, looking up, and then I stood there, staring at nothing. The aisle was empty. No little girl. No man. Nothing. But then I heard it. Through the speakers. Faint, but clear. Giggling. A little girl's laugh. High-pitched. Playful. The manager frowned. What the hell is that? You hear it? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Yeah. Where's it coming from? We checked the audio. Rewound it. Played it again. At exactly 8:12 p.m. you could hear it. Clear as day. A child laughing. But there was no child on the footage. The manager turned pale. He didn't say anything. Just stopped the video and told me to go home early. I didn't argue. I quit 2 weeks later. Told them it was for school. It wasn't. I just couldn't be in that store anymore. Couldn't walk down aisle 7 without feeling like I was being watched. Without hearing that laugh in the back of my head. I've tried to rationalize it. Audio glitch. Trick of the light. Stress. Lack of sleep. But I know what I saw. I know what I heard. And the worst part? I'm a father now. My daughter's 4. She has blonde hair. She loves pink dresses. And when she laughs, when she giggles that same high-pitched, innocent laugh, I see that little girl, standing at the end of the aisle, smiling, not blinking, and I see him behind her, tall, faceless, waiting. I don't know what they were. I don't know what they wanted. But sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet and my daughter's asleep, I hear it. Faint, distant, but unmistakable, giggling, and I wonder if they're still there, in aisle 7, waiting for someone else. I don't go into department stores anymore. I can't. Even walking past one makes my chest tight. The smell of new clothes and recycled air. The bright lights. The rows of faceless figures standing perfectly still in the windows. I know it sounds irrational. I know people think I'm being dramatic. But they weren't there. They didn't see what I saw. They didn't feel what I felt when Rita moved. My name's Olivia. I'm 29 now. When this happened, I was 26, working as a visual merchandiser at a mid-tier clothing retailer in a mall in Jacksonville, Florida. The Regency Square Mall, if you know it. It's one of those places that's slowly dying. Half the stores are closed, the food court's down to 3 restaurants, and the parking lot's mostly empty even on weekends. My job was simple. Dress the mannequins, arrange the displays, make the store look appealing enough that people would actually come in and buy something. It was creative work, which I liked, but it was also lonely. I spent most of my shifts alone in the front windows or the back stockroom, moving limbs, changing outfits, adjusting accessories. There were about a dozen mannequins in the store. Most of them were new, smooth, featureless faces, neutral poses. But there was one that had been there for years, long before I started, long before most of the current staff had been hired. We called her Rita. I don't know who named her. It was just something everyone called her. She was older, from the 90s maybe. Her face was more detailed than the newer ones. Painted features, defined cheekbones, lips parted slightly like she was about to speak. But the paint was chipped, especially on her fingers. And her eyes, those glossy, dead eyes, had this unsettling way of seeming to follow you. She creeped me out from day one. But I didn't have a choice. Rita was part of the main display window. She'd been in the same spot for so long that the store manager refused to move her. Said she was iconic, that customers recognized her. I thought that was ridiculous, but I wasn't about to argue. So I dressed her, changed her outfits every week, adjusted her pose, tried not to look at her face for too long. It was a Friday night in late September when it started. I was closing alone. My manager had left early for a family thing, and my coworker called in sick, so it was just me. The mall closed at 9, but I usually stayed until 10 or 10:30 finishing up displays and restocking. I was in the front window working on Rita. She was wearing a fall outfit burgundy sweater, black jeans, ankle boots. I was adjusting the scarf around her neck, trying to make it look natural when I felt it. Her arm moved, not fell, not shifted, moved, like she'd lifted it herself. I froze. My hands were still on the scarf. I stared at her arm, bent at the elbow now, raised slightly, fingers curled like she was reaching for something. I stepped back. My heart was pounding. "Okay," I said out loud, just to fill the silence. "You're tired. You bumped it. It's fine." But I didn't bump it. I know I didn't. I looked at Rita's face. Her head was tilted now, angled toward me. I didn't tilt it. I know I didn't. I'd positioned her facing forward, toward the mall corridor. But now she was looking at me, those dead, glossy eyes locked on mine. I backed out of the display window. My hands were shaking. I told myself I was being paranoid. Mannequins don't move. Their joints get loose. They shift. It's normal. But it didn't feel normal. I locked the security gate, shut off the lights, and left. I didn't finish the display. I didn't care. I just wanted to get out. The next morning, I came in for my shift and immediately checked the window. Rita was facing the opposite direction. Completely opposite. She'd been facing left when I left her. Now she was facing right. Her arms were in a different position. Her head was tilted the other way. I walked up to my coworker, Melissa, who was working the register. "Did you touch Rita?" She looked at me like I was crazy. "What? No. Why would I? She's moved." Melissa glanced toward the window. Shrugged. Manager probably adjusted her this morning. He wasn't here this morning. I opened. Then maybe you're misremembering. I wasn't. I knew exactly how I'd left her. But I didn't push it. I just went back to the window and repositioned her. Facing forward. Arms at her sides. I tried to ignore the cold knot in my stomach. That night, I decided to stay late. I told myself it was to catch up on inventory. But really, I wanted to watch the security footage. The store had cameras covering every corner, including the front window. I stayed until 11, pretending to organize the stockroom, and then I went into the back office and pulled up the footage from the night before. I scrubbed through it, watched myself working in the window, adjusting Rita's scarf, and then I saw it. At 11:47 p.m., almost an hour after I'd left, Rita's arm moved. Slowly, deliberately, it lifted from her side, bent at the elbow and raised toward the camera. I felt my blood go cold, and then her head turned. Not quickly, not like something had knocked it. It rotated smoothly, slowly, until she was facing the camera dead on. And then she smiled. Her lips, painted, cracked, lifeless, curled upward. Not a lot, just enough to be unmistakable. I slammed the laptop shut. My hands were trembling. My chest was heaving. I felt like I was going to be sick. Mannequins don't smile. They don't move. They don't turn their heads and look at cameras. But Rita did. I grabbed my bag and ran. I didn't lock up properly. I didn't shut off the lights. I just ran to my car, locked the doors, and sat there shaking for 10 minutes before I could even start the engine. I quit the next day. Didn't give 2 weeks. Didn't explain. Just told my manager I couldn't work there anymore and left. I tried to forget about it. Tried to convince myself it was a glitch. A prank. Something. But I couldn't shake the image of her face. That smile. Those eyes. And then last week, I saw her again. I was at a Goodwill across town. Just browsing. Killing time. I walked past the furniture section toward the back. And that's when I saw her. Rita. Standing in the corner near a rack of used coats. Same chipped fingers. Same dead eyes. Same face. I stopped. My whole body went numb. She was facing the door. Facing me. Like she'd been waiting. I walked closer. Slowly. My heart was hammering. I looked at her hands. The paint was chipped in the exact same places. I looked at her face. The same cracks in the paint around her lips. It was her. I don't know how. I don't know why. But it was her. I turned and walked out. I didn't run. I didn't scream. I just left. Got in my car and drove home. I haven't been back. But I keep thinking about it. About how she ended up there. About how she was facing the door. About that smile. And sometimes, late at night, I think about all the other mannequins I've dressed over the years. All the ones standing in dark stores right now. Empty malls. Locked windows. I think about their faces. Their hands. Their eyes. And I wonder how many of them are like Rita. I wonder how many of them are watching. Waiting. I don't go into department stores anymore. I can't. Because I know now. I know they're not just plastic and paint. I know something else is in there. Something patient. Something that can wait years. Decades. And I know that Rita's still out there. Still watching. Still smiling. And I think she's looking for me. I don't answer unknown numbers anymore. I can't. My phone sits face down on my desk most of the time. Ringer off. Notifications silenced. When it vibrates, my stomach drops. I check the screen, and if I don't recognize the number, I let it go to voicemail. People think I'm rude. Antisocial. Maybe I am. But they don't know what I heard. They don't know what it's like to pick up the phone and hear yourself on the other end. Your own voice. Your own words. Saying things you never said. My name's Rachel. I'm 30 now. When this started, I was 27, working customer service at a call center in Denver. It was one of those massive operations. Hundreds of cubicles crammed into a converted warehouse. Fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. The constant low hum of voices blending together into white noise. We handled customer service for a big retail chain. Returns. Complaints. Questions about orders. Soul-crushing, repetitive work that paid just enough to keep you trapped. I'd been there about a year and a half. Long enough that I could answer calls on autopilot. Long enough that the scripts were burned into my brain. Long enough that I'd stopped caring. It was a Thursday afternoon in March. Gray. Cold. One of those days where the sky looks like concrete and the sun never really breaks through. I was at my desk, cubicle 47B, near the back, working my way through the queue, call after call. Same questions, same answers, the kind of monotony that makes time feel like it's moving backward. Around 2:30, my desk phone rang. Internal call. The little light on the display flashed green instead of red. That usually meant it was a supervisor or someone from IT. I picked up. "This is Rachel." And I heard my voice. Not an echo. Not feedback. My voice. Talking to someone. A customer. "I completely understand your frustration, ma'am," my voice said. Calm. Professional. The tone I used 100 times a day. "Let me pull up your account and see what I can do for you." I froze. The phone pressed against my ear. My heart started beating faster. I wasn't on a call. My screen showed no active line. The queue was paused. I was between calls, but I could hear myself talking. "Okay, I see the issue here," my voice continued. "It looks like the blender you ordered was damaged in transit. I'm so sorry about that. Let me process a return for you right away." I pulled the phone away from my ear and stared at it. The caller ID still showed internal. The timer wasn't running. There was no call connected. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I told myself it was a glitch. A crossed line. Something technical. Call centers have weird issues all the time. Phones malfunction. Systems glitch. But then it rang again. Same green light. Internal call. I picked up slowly. It was my voice again. "No, ma'am. There's no need to send it back. We'll issue a full refund and send a replacement. You should see it within 5 to 7 business days." I felt cold. My skin prickled with goosebumps. I checked my screen again. No active call. Nothing. "Hello," I said into the phone. My voice kept talking. Like it couldn't hear me. Like I wasn't there. "Is there anything else I can help you with today?" I ripped the headset off and stood up. My chair rolled backward and hit the cubicle wall. A couple of coworkers glanced over, but no one said anything. I grabbed my supervisor, Karen, who was walking past. "Something's wrong with my phone," I said. My voice was shaking. She followed me back to my desk. "What's going on?" "I keep getting calls. Internal calls. But I stopped. I didn't know how to explain it without sounding insane. "Just listen." I put the call on speaker. My voice came through, clear as day. "Thank you for calling. Have a great day." Click. The line went dead. Karen frowned. "That sounded like you." It was me, but I'm not on a call. I wasn't talking to anyone. She looked at my screen, checked the queue. "You're right. No active call." She pulled out her radio. "Let me get IT down here." 20 minutes later, a guy from IT, young, buzz cut, bored expression, came down and started poking around my computer. He pulled the call logs, scrolled through the data. "Okay, this is weird," he muttered. "What?" I leaned over his shoulder. He pointed at the screen. "You have 2 calls logged at the same time, both from your extension. Same timestamp, but one shows you were on break." "I was on break," I said. "I was in the break room. I wasn't at my desk." He scratched his head. "Yeah, but the system shows you took a call. 12 minutes. Customer name, Linda Hoffman. Issue, damaged blender. Return processed." I stared at the log. "I didn't take that call. I've never even handled appliances. We don't sell appliances." Karen and the IT guy exchanged a look. "Can you pull the recording?" Karen asked. "Every call we took was recorded. Quality assurance." The IT guy clicked a few buttons, and the audio file loaded. He hit play. It was my voice. "Thank you for calling. This is Rachel. How can I help you today?" I felt my stomach twist. It sounded exactly like me. Every inflection, every pause, the way I said my name. the slight uptick at the end of today. The call continued. A woman, Linda, I guess, explained that her blender arrived broken. My voice apologized, pulled up her account, processed a return, offered a replacement. It was a normal call, routine, boring, except I didn't take it. And then, at the end, after the customer hung up, there was silence. 5 seconds. 10. And then my voice whispered, "She doesn't know yet." The recording ended. Karen went pale. The IT guy stared at the screen. "What the hell was that?" he said quietly. I couldn't speak. My throat was tight. My hands were trembling. "Pull the camera footage," Karen said. Her voice was strained. From her cubicle. 2:15 to 2:30. The IT guy pulled up the security feed. Grainy. Black and white. But clear enough. At 2:17 p.m., my desk was empty. I was on break. The chair was pushed in. The phone wasn't in use. But at 2:18 p.m., the phone's light turned green, like someone had picked it up. And for 12 minutes, it stayed green. No one was there. The chair didn't move. But the call was active. At 2:30 p.m., the light turned off. I watched myself return to my desk 2 minutes later. Karen told me to go home. Paid leave. She'd figure it out. I didn't argue. I grabbed my bag and left. I tried to forget about it. Tried to rationalize it. A system error. A prank. Someone spoofing my voice. Something. But I couldn't shake the feeling. That whisper. She doesn't know yet. Doesn't know what? 6 months later, the call center shut down. Budget cuts. The whole building was emptied out. I got a new job. Moved to a different part of the city. I deleted my LinkedIn. Changed my phone number. I thought it was over. And then last week, my cell phone rang. Unknown number. I should have ignored it. I should have let it go to voicemail. But I was distracted. Tired. I wasn't thinking. I answered. "Hello." Silence. And then my voice. Calm. Familiar. Exactly like me. "You shouldn't have picked up." I dropped the phone. It clattered onto the table. I stared at it, my heart slamming in my chest. The call was still connected. I could see the timer running. I grabbed the phone and hung up. Blocked the number. Turned off my phone completely. But it didn't matter. Because I know now. I know it's not a glitch. It's not a prank. Something is using my voice. Something has been for a long time. And it knows me. It knows where I am. What I'm doing. What I'm saying. And I don't know how to stop it. I don't answer unknown numbers anymore. I barely answer calls at all. Because I'm terrified that one day, I'll pick up the phone. And I'll hear myself. Telling me things I don't want to know. Things I'm not ready to hear. And I won't be able to hang up. I don't answer unknown numbers anymore. Ever. My phone stays on silent most of the time. Do not disturb mode permanently enabled. When a call comes through from a number I don't recognize, I feel my chest tighten. My hands start to sweat. I let it ring. I let it go to voicemail. And I never, ever listen to the message. Because I'm terrified of what I might hear. Terrified that I'll hear my own voice on the other end, telling me things I don't want to know. My name's Sarah. I'm 32 now. When this started, I was 29, working customer service at a call center in Denver for a big retail chain. One of those massive operations with hundreds of cubicles lined up in rows, fluorescent lights humming overhead 24/7, and the constant drone of voices blending together into this suffocating white noise that never stopped. The work was soul-crushing, repetitive, mind-numbing, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, answering the same questions, reading from the same scripts, apologizing for things that weren't my fault. Returns, complaints, shipping delays, damaged products, over and over and over. The kind of job that made you forget what day it was. The kind that made you feel like you were disappearing a little more every shift. I'd been there almost 2 years when it happened. Long enough that I'd stopped trying to make friends. Long enough that I could zone out completely and still hit my call quotas. Long enough that I was seriously considering quitting but didn't have anywhere else to go. It was a Tuesday in late January. Cold. Gray. The kind of Denver winter day where the sky looks like dirty cement and the wind cuts straight through your coat. I remember because I'd spent my morning break in my car with the heater running, putting off going back inside for as long as possible. I was at my desk, cubicle 12C, middle of the floor, grinding through my queue. I just finished a call with a guy complaining about a late delivery when my desk phone rang again. I glanced at the display. Internal call. Green light instead of red. That usually meant it was a supervisor or someone from HR or IT. I picked up. "This is Sarah." And I heard my voice. Not an echo. Not feedback from a bad connection. My voice. Clear. Distinct. Talking to someone. "I completely understand, ma'am, and I apologize for the inconvenience," my voice said. Professional. Measured. The exact tone I used on every call. "Let me look into this for you right away." I pulled the phone away from my ear and stared at it. My heart started beating faster. I looked at my computer screen. No active call. The queue was paused. I was between calls, but I could hear myself. Talking. Helping a customer. "Okay. I'm showing here that the blender you ordered arrived damaged," my voice continued. "I'm so sorry about that. I'm going to process a full refund for you right now, and we'll get a replacement sent out today." I hung up. My hands were shaking. I stared at the phone like it might bite me. I told myself it was a mistake. A crossed line. Some kind of technical glitch. Call centers have issues like that all the time. Phones malfunction. Systems crash. Lines get crossed. But my stomach felt wrong. Heavy. The phone rang again. Same green light. Internal. I picked up slowly, my hand trembling. "Again, I apologize for the trouble, ma'am," my voice said. Calm. Patient. "Is there anything else I can help you with today?" "Hello," I said into the phone. My voice came out thin. Weak. My voice on the other end kept talking. Like it couldn't hear me. Like I wasn't there. "Perfect. Thank you so much for your patience. You have a wonderful day." Silence. And then a click. The call disconnected. I sat there frozen. The phone still pressed against my ear. My heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. I checked my screen again. No call logged. No timer. Nothing. I ripped off my headset and stood up. My chair rolled backward and slammed into the cubicle partition. A couple of coworkers glanced over but didn't say anything. Everyone minded their own business here. I found my supervisor, Angela, near the break room. She was holding a coffee and scrolling through her phone. "Angela," I said. My voice was shaking. "Something's wrong with my phone." She looked up, annoyed. "What kind of wrong?" "I keep getting calls. Internal calls. But I stopped. I didn't know how to say it without sounding insane. "Can you just check my extension? Please." She sighed and followed me back to my desk. I explained what happened. She looked skeptical but pulled up the call logs on her tablet. Her expression changed. "That's weird," she muttered, scrolling. "You've got overlapping calls here. 2 calls at the same timestamp. Both from your extension. What does that mean?" "I don't know. That shouldn't be possible." She tapped the screen. "1 call shows you were on break. But there's a logged call here at the same time. 12-minute duration. Customer name, Linda Hoffman. Issue, damaged blender. Refund processed." "I didn't take that call," I said. My voice was rising. "I was on break. I was in my car. I wasn't even at my desk." Angela's jaw tightened. "Let me pull the recording." Every call was recorded. Quality assurance. She pulled up the audio file on her tablet and hit play. It was my voice. "Thank you for calling. This is Sarah. How can I help you today?" I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. The call played out exactly as I'd heard it. A woman, Linda, presumably, explained that her blender had arrived broken. My voice apologized, pulled up her account, processed the refund, offered a replacement. It was textbook, professional, normal, except I didn't take that call. And then, after the customer said goodbye and hung up, there was silence. 5 seconds, 10, 15. And then my voice whispered, "She doesn't know yet." The recording ended. Angela stared at the screen. Her face had gone pale. "What the hell was that?" she said quietly. I couldn't speak. My throat felt like it was closing. "Pull the security footage," Angela said, her voice tight, from her desk. 2 o'clock to 2:15. She led me to the security office. The guy on duty, middle-aged, balding, bored, pulled up the camera feed for my cubicle. At 2:03 p.m., my desk was empty. I was on break. The chair was pushed in. The phone wasn't in use. At 2:04 p.m., the phone's light turned green. For 12 minutes, the light stayed on. Active call. But no one was sitting there. The chair didn't move. No one touched the phone. At 2:16 p.m., the light turned off. At 2:18 p.m., I returned to my desk and sat down. Angela told me to go home. Paid leave. She'd look into it. She didn't meet my eyes when she said it. I left. I tried to forget. Tried to rationalize it. A system error. A hacker. A prank. Someone cloned my voice somehow. Deepfake technology. Something. But I couldn't stop thinking about that whisper. She doesn't know yet. Doesn't know what? 6 months later, the call center shut down. Corporate restructuring. The whole building was gutted. Everyone laid off. I moved on. Got a job doing admin work for a law firm. Changed my phone number. Deleted all my social media. I wanted to disappear. I thought it was over. Last week, my cell phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. I should have let it go. But I was expecting a call from my doctor's office, and I thought maybe it was them. I picked up. "Hello." Silence. And then my voice. Calm. Clear. Exactly like me. "You shouldn't have picked up." The line went dead. I dropped the phone like it had burned me. It clattered onto the kitchen table. I stood there staring at it, my whole body shaking, my breath coming in short, panicked gasps. I blocked the number, turned my phone off completely, but it didn't help. Because now I know. I know it wasn't a glitch. It wasn't a mistake. Something has my voice. Something has been using it. For how long, I don't know. What it's doing, I don't know. But it knows me. It knows where I am, what I'm doing, how to reach me, and it's not done. I don't answer unknown numbers anymore. I barely answer my phone at all. I keep it on silent. I keep it face down. I keep myself small and quiet, hoping it'll forget about me. But sometimes, late at night, when everything's quiet, I hear it. My own voice, whispering from somewhere I can't see, saying things I don't understand. And I know it's only a matter of time before it calls again. And when it does, I'm terrified of what it'll say, what it'll tell me, what it knows that I don't. I still take different routes home, every single night. I don't care if it adds 20 minutes to my drive. I don't care if it's inconvenient. I switch it up. Highway one night, back roads the next. Sometimes I'll take 3 different turns just to make sure no one's behind me. My boyfriend thinks I'm paranoid. My therapist says it's hypervigilance, a trauma response. Maybe they're both right. But they weren't there that night. They didn't see what I saw. They didn't feel what I felt when that truck followed me home through 15 miles of empty Montana highway in the middle of a January snowstorm. My name's Katie. I'm 27 now. When this happened, I was 24, working at a pet supply store in the middle of nowhere. And I mean nowhere. The kind of place where the nearest town is 40 minutes away and the gas station closes at 7. The store sat on a lonely stretch of highway surrounded by fields and forest. And on a clear day, you could see the mountains in the distance. It was beautiful during the day. At night, it felt like the edge of the world. I worked closing shifts mostly. The pay was better and I didn't mind being alone. I'd lock up around 10, clean the registers, restock shelves, feed the fish in the aquarium section. It was quiet, peaceful even. I'd done it hundreds of times. But that night was different. It was mid-January, the kind of cold that hurts your lungs when you breathe. Snow had been falling since the afternoon, thick, heavy flakes that piled up fast. By the time I locked the front doors at 10, there were at least 4 inches on the ground, maybe more. The parking lot was empty except for my car, a beat-up Honda Civic I'd bought used 3 years earlier. I turned off the lights, set the alarm, and stepped outside. The cold hit me immediately, sharp, biting, the kind of cold that makes your eyes water. I pulled my coat tighter and walked to my car, my boots crunching in the fresh snow. That's when I noticed the headlights. A truck, parked at the far edge of the lot, near the dumpsters. Old, rusted, one of those boxy pickups from the 80s, dark-colored, maybe blue or black, hard to tell in the dim light. The engine was running. I could see the exhaust rising in the cold air. I stopped, stared at it for a second. I didn't recognize it. It wasn't there when I'd arrived for my shift at 2. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe someone had car trouble. Maybe they were waiting for a tow truck. Montana's full of trucks like that. Old ranchers, hunters, people who fix things with duct tape and keep driving them until they fall apart. But something about it felt wrong. I got in my car, locked the doors immediately, and started the engine. My hands were shaking a little. I didn't know why. I turned on the heater and pulled out of the parking lot, heading toward the highway. The truck followed. Not right away. It waited a few seconds. But as soon as I turned onto the highway, I saw the headlights behind me. 2 car lengths back. Steady. I tried to ignore it. Told myself it was a coincidence. We were both heading the same direction. This was the main road. The only road, really. Of course someone else would be on it. But after 5 miles, it was still there. 2 car lengths behind. No closer. No farther. I slowed down. 45. 40. 35. The truck slowed down. I sped up. 55. 60. The truck sped up. Always 2 car lengths behind. My heart started pounding. My hands were sweating now despite the cold. I kept glancing in my rearview mirror, watching those headlights. They didn't waver, didn't drift, just stayed locked on me. I told myself to stay calm. Maybe it was someone from town. Maybe they were just heading the same way. But we were 15 miles from my turnoff now. 15 miles of empty highway with nothing but snow and darkness and those headlights burning into my rearview mirror. I turned onto the side road that led to my house. A narrow 2-lane road that cut through the woods. No streetlights, no houses, just trees. The truck turned. My stomach dropped. No one took this road unless they lived out here. And I knew everyone who lived out here. This wasn't one of them. I sped up. 50. 55. Too fast for the conditions. My tires slipped a little on the snow, and I eased off the gas, my heart hammering in my chest. The truck sped up too. I fumbled for my phone, nearly dropped it, and managed to dial 911 with shaking hands. It rang twice before someone picked up. 911, what's your emergency? There's a truck following me. My voice came out high and tight, panicked. I'm on Old Mill Road heading toward Aspen Drive. It's been following me for 15 miles. I don't know who it is. Okay, ma'am, stay calm. Stay on the line with me. Do not stop your vehicle. How far are you from your home? Maybe 2 miles. Okay, keep driving. I'm dispatching officers now. Do not get out of your car. Do you understand? Yes. I could barely breathe. My hands were white-knuckled on the steering wheel. The truck was still there. Still 2 car lengths behind. I could see it clearly now in my mirror. Boxy, rusted, one headlight dimmer than the other. I turned onto my driveway. It's a long driveway, 1/4 mile, gravel, lined with trees. My house sits at the end, a small cabin-style place I rented cheap because it was so remote. The truck stopped at the end of the driveway. It didn't pull in, just stopped. Lights on, engine idling. Ma'am, are you at your residence? The dispatcher asked. Yes, I'm in my driveway. The truck stopped at the end. It's just sitting there. Okay, officers are 2 minutes away. Stay in your car. Keep your doors locked. Do not get out. Okay. I sat there, engine running, staring at my front door 20 feet away. The porch light was on. I could see my breath fogging up the windshield. The snow was falling harder now, thick and heavy, coating everything in white. And then the truck's door opened. I heard it, the creak of old hinges, the crunch of boots on snow. A figure stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, hunched forward slightly, like they were carrying something heavy. I couldn't see their face. The headlights behind them cast them in silhouette. just a dark shape against the snow and light. They started walking toward me. Slow, deliberate. "Ma'am? What's happening?" The dispatcher's voice was sharp now. "Someone got out. They're walking toward my car. Do not get out. Stay inside. Officers are 1 minute away." The figure walked halfway up my driveway, maybe 50 feet from my car. And then they stopped, just stood there, staring. I couldn't see their face, but I could feel them looking at me. Through the windshield, through the snow, through everything. My whole body was shaking. I gripped my phone so hard my knuckles hurt. And then I heard sirens. Faint at first, then louder. Red and blue lights flashing through the trees. The figure turned, walked back to the truck. Slowly, no rush, got in. The door closed, and the truck pulled away, disappearing down the road just as the police cruiser turned onto my driveway. 2 officers got out. I stumbled out of my car, nearly fell, and one of them caught my arm. "You okay, ma'am?" I nodded. I couldn't speak. My throat was too tight. They checked the driveway, checked my house, and that's when they saw them. Footprints, in the snow, leading from the end of my driveway all the way to my front porch. Deep, boot-shaped, fresh. One of the officers tried my front door. It was unlocked. "Did you unlock this before you left?" he asked. I shook my head. "No, I always lock it." "I know I locked it." They went inside, guns drawn, and cleared the house. Nothing. No one. Everything was exactly as I'd left it. Except the door was unlocked. They took a report. Told me to call if I saw the truck again. They drove around looking for it but didn't find anything. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on my couch with every light on, a kitchen knife in my lap, staring at the door. I moved 3 weeks later, quit my job, left Montana entirely. I don't know who was in that truck. I don't know what they wanted. I don't know how they unlocked my door, but I still take different routes home. I still check my mirrors obsessively. I still lock my doors twice, because sometimes late at night I think I see those headlights again. 2 car lengths behind, following, waiting.